Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pandemic Pause from NVision U, where we take some time out to focus on issues, information, and resources relevant to our clients, family, and friends. I'm Dr. Kristina Pecora from NVision U, and today we welcome a trusted colleague, Erin Wilson. Erin Wilson has been a licensed attorney since 2008, always working in family law, and in 2019 opened her own practice. The law office of Erin M. Wilson, LLC offers services in family law litigation, mediation, parenting coordination, and as a child representative and guardian ad litem. Erin has a specific talent for focusing on the big picture and devising a strategy that will help you reach your goals, striving for an amicable settlement by crafting creative solutions while aggressively protecting your rights and interests in the courtroom. She has written a couple of guest blogs for NVision U and recently on issues she's noticing during the pandemic. The law office of Erin M. Wilson continues to work on cases during shelter-in-place order and has been addressing numerous issues arising as a result of COVID-19, including parenting time, orders of protection, and modifications of support. So Erin, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is a tough time, particularly for families. What have you been hearing are some major concerns, either from your clients or from parents trying to make things work?
So, clients are concerned about what is happening not only in their household, but if you're a dual household family, if you're already separated, going through divorce proceedings or separation proceedings, what's happening in the other person's home. You can control your home, but what is your co-parent doing? Who's coming and going? Does that person have a significant other? Do they live together or not? Are you working? That's a big thing we're seeing. Are you out in the workforce? And people have to work, right? But then we have to think about, should the person who's working have parenting time? Should they not have parenting time? Those are some really tough questions as this continues to go on longer, I think, than anyone had originally expected. So those are sort of the pandemic concerns we're seeing is really surrounding parenting time and how to best keep everyone safe and having that continuous contact and relationship with their family.
Absolutely. So how can families find outlets to cope with these frustrations, these communication issues?
So, in terms of coping, right? I'm sure you at NVision U are telling people, and we are as well, just trying to maintain the consistency, the routine, the structure. That, I think, is what's helping families move along as healthy as they can. And when you talk about the conflicts, that's a lot of what I'm handling is the conflict, is trying to be as open with the communication, honest, sharing both your concerns and your questions of what's happening in the other's home, and being honest about what you're doing in your home and thinking about everybody's safety. We really do recommend some of these apps. There's Our Family Wizard is a great one. It's really great for communication between parents. There's a calendar feature. There's a messaging feature, and you can see when the other parents viewed the communication. So we really do like to use Our Family Wizard for parties. There's Talking Parents is another app. Just if you're emailing or texting, whatever it is, just to keep your communications in writing and be responsive and be honest about both what you're doing and what your concerns are.
And once again, those apps were Our Family Wizard and what was the other one?
Talking Parents.
Talking Parents.
And so if you go to my website, actually, we have some information on those apps. I actually wrote an article on the different apps. Our Family Wizard is $100 per year per parent, and Talking Parents is free. But I would say Our Family Wizard, has a lot more functions associated with it. And it really does help with co-parenting in two different homes.
What is one of those functions that helps to keep this communication consistent, do you think?
Well, the things that I like about it are the following. There's a calendar feature. You can do your weekend switches there. So all the information is in one place, and you can each input extracurricular activities, school events, doctor's appointments, and whose parenting time it is.
Mhm.
So they have the calendar feature. They have a feature for expenses. So if you're sharing expenses in a certain proportion, maybe equal, maybe not, you can upload those expenses and mark it off when it's paid. So it's again all just in one place. And then there's a tone meter that helps you be nice in your communications. It's kind of like a flashing, not so nice, not so nice, change the message. It picks up passive aggressiveness. It even picks up, it picks up some Yiddish I find hysterical. Um, there's a check-in feature. So if one parent is saying you're always late, you drop a pin when you arrive. And so that person can't say, and it's with the location, it has a GPS. So it takes away the ability to make accusations and to just try and actually focus on the kids, which is what's most important. And then it is primarily a messaging feature. So rather than email, rather than text, it's an app you download on your phone, and you just message each other, but you can see that the other has viewed it, and then when they respond to it. And then as a professional, we have accounts that are essentially ghost accounts. So when I'm appointed to represent kids or to be a parenting coordinator, I can view through those parties through my professional account. So I am a big fan of our Family Wizard.
That sounds great for maintaining consistency as well as honesty in communication. Have you seen any other stresses that families are reporting, either to you or in your industry these days?
Sure. I mean, also on financials, unfortunately, people are losing their jobs. And so when you have a child support order or a maintenance obligation, your income may be shifting and you may not be able to meet that obligation. So it's a function of potentially, if you're representing someone who's the payor, modifying that on a temporary basis. And then if you're the recipient, really thinking about, should that be modified or not? Because they're in need of that money as well. So just trying to balance making sure that the families can all be supported. That's been one of the stressors. And what I've seen is that the courts are right now, I think, really quick to deal with the parenting issues and a little less so to deal in a hearing manner with the financial issues. So, it does become a function of trying to negotiate and potentially mediate the issues and trying to figure those out a little bit outside of the courts.
Sure. So what does court right now look like? You said that they're more interested in seeing parenting agreement changes versus financial, but what does it actually look like to be active in the court right now?
Sure. So it's a pretty complicated question because it's changing. Our presiding judge, Judge Dickler, is at the forefront of making sure that we can do as much as possible. She is constantly amending orders, supplementing orders as this goes on. The courts are hearing emergencies relative to parenting time pretty quickly. So I've been dealing with either you have one person denying parenting time wrongly, people trying to enforce their parenting time rights, or people saying, this other house isn't safe and we need to stop the parenting time. And it's really looked at on a case by case basis, but the courts are looking at it. And I think from my experience, I think they're making the right calls so far. It's a hard issue, but so we're dealing with, really emergent visitation issues, number one. As to just ongoing regular cases, the courts are really opening up more and more to have pretrial conferences, to have basic hearings, to have statuses. So we're scheduling it all through Zoom, and everyone has to be flexible. But I have seen more and more of the courts moving their cases along in the ordinary course of business. So it's been good because we need to move our cases.
Mm-hmm.
Relative to actually getting divorced, that's been really great for families. I've had a lot of families that they're home, they're motivated to, make this their priority. And I've resolved a good handful of cases, and the courts are doing remote prove-ups. So we are able to finalize cases and get them divorced
Oh, wow.
remotely.
Okay.
So that's been positive for them. I mean, this is what they're trying to accomplish. So we've been able to do that. And you know, they've been doing more and more, I would say. So I think the courts are trying to help the families.
That's great. That's good to hear that there's remaining active, and that things aren't necessarily just being put on hold.
Right.
Yeah. So if someone is interested in talking with you, like establishing a new client relationship, what does that look like for you in the time of COVID?
Sure. We're working at my office, and I know a lot of attorneys are working. I think at first everyone was a little unsure what was happening, but as we see this going on again, so in terms of my office, I'm the only attorney. I have an assistant, and I have a few law clerks. So typically, if someone wanted to hire us, you would have an initial consultation with me. I don't charge for my initial consultations. Get an intake form filled out with some background information so that when we do talk, it's as productive as possible. And we'll have that initial conversation and see what's best for that particular person. And then we can get started. I mean, like I said, we're working hard. So we are able to start cases, we're able to file new cases and move them along. We also, people are serving others. So if you have your other spouse not engaging and we need to actually have them personally served, we do have the process servers that are working.
Mm-hmm.
So things are moving. It really is. And I'll tell you, we're not in court in the morning. So we almost have more time to get cases done and to focus on some of the actual work. So we're able to be really productive.
Mm-hmm. Great. So now we've all heard rumors that the divorce rate is going up due to COVID. Are you hearing anything like that, or is that your experience?
I mean, everyone's saying that, right? At first it was slow, but I think people are in these houses together and it's tough. It's tough. I've seen a couple of families separating and one person moving to a parent's house.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard to live uncomfortably and unhappily,
Mm-hmm.
all boxed up in one house. So I am seeing people saying, I've got to get out, and usually that means going to a family member's or a friend's house.
Sure. Are there any issues that you've seen where you would counsel people not to go the traditional litigation route at this time?
So, I always say if you can work it out without litigation, without acrimony, without fighting, that's the best route. So I am, a trained mediator. I have tons of colleagues who are fantastic mediators. We can go to mediation, and mediation is happening with Zoom. You can mediate an entire divorce case. You can mediate parenting issues. You can really mediate anything. And that's happening now. I think another great option when you're talking about parenting issues is having a parenting coordinator. That's someone who outside of the courtroom has typically been appointed by the court, either by court order or by agreement, but is there to really help in the day-to-day management of communication and conflict. I think that that's huge right now and is such a valuable tool because yes, the courts are working, but you got to email the coordinators and schedule it and set it up. And that's fine. And we're doing that. But if you have a parenting coordinator in place, it's a little bit more of a streamlined approach. So I think that that's really helpful. And similarly, if you have an active case and if there's a child rep or a guardian ad litem on the case already, that's someone that you can go to help work through these parenting concerns.
Great. And to get, if families are having problems, and would they contact in order to access parenting coordination? Would that go through you, or are there other services?
They're private attorneys who are trained in mediation and have skills in high conflict. So if someone doesn't have a parenting coordinator on their case and they think it would be helpful, then reach out to me directly, reach out obviously to your office. You guys have tons of great resources, and find out who they can get on board to help their family.
For sure. Great. Any last pieces of advice for families who are having a hard time right now?
Sure. I mean, I said it before, but really just that communication piece of it is what I think is so important. And just know that there is the expectation that parenting time continues, although there are exceptions when it's not safe.
Mhm.
So I've seen families just denying parenting time and making up excuses, and that's just not helpful or healthy. So just try and be as reasonable as possible. Try and be honest with your co-parent. And look, if you need some assistance, contact your therapist, contact a lawyer. There are professionals out there that are working and can help you.
Mhm. Great. Great. Yes. Just because you're having difficulties doesn't mean you can't search for all kinds of solutions, right? Communication, financial, and litigation for sure. Okay. Erin, thank you so much for being with us here today. We look forward to future visit blog posts on NVision U. And if anything, if this continues for much longer, we're all going to need some help, I think. So we'll have you back again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed this, and I hope that I was able to offer some helpful insight.
Oh, absolutely. As always, as always. Thank you so much.